BayouBeatNews.com. Y'all know BayouBeatNews.com. Bayou Beat, bringing that Southern love to your daily news coverage. I am KG Chris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review. And with me once again is Miss Kanitra KP Pulliams. How are you doing, ma'am?
Hey, Chris. Hi, Willie.
And as she mentioned, also joining us is Mr. Willie Gibson. How are you, sir?
Fantastic.
You should be happy.
What's not to be happy about?
Those Buckeyes from the Ohio State University got it done. Let's talk about that first, sir.
Yes, the world famous Ohio State Buckeyes. Shout out to the city is on one, as the kids say right now. Great championship. To the hardest run in college football history, as it's being labeled, to go through the gauntlet of 4 games and a 12-team playoff. The first team to win the 12-team playoff in CFP history. Ohio State was also the first team to win the 14 playoff national championship. But it was the Ryan Day and the staff. I mean, they locked in over the last 6 weeks to beat Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and then Monday night to beat Notre Dame for the national championship. It's phenomenal. The ninth national championship in Ohio State football history. So, I mean, it's phenomenal.
Kanitra, what are your thoughts on what the Buckeyes did and have done?
It's worth commending. I mean, just being able to bounce back just from that setback against the team from the North, as Willie likes to say, and then just get everything rolling in time for the playoffs, and to be able to, with this new construct of what the college football playoff looks like, to be able to get it done and to hoist the trophy and bask in the confetti when it's all said and done.
And I like to give credit and praise to my colleagues when it's due. Last week's show, Mr. Gibson mentioned, and I heard it stated this week, that the Buckeyes investment, that $20 million, was spent in retention of their players.
Yep.
And a few more national pundits, clearly they watched the Takeover, sponsored by Bayou Beat News, because they repeated what Mr. Gibson said a few times. So, Willie, just for those who missed last week's show, just reiterate or repeat or bring up again what Ohio State spent for their NIL, but it was different in their spending.
Sure. Ohio State spent $20 million in NIL resources for this 2024 football team. However, majority of those funds were spent to bring returning players back instead of them declaring for the NFL draft for going their last year of eligibility. They brought back a JT Tuimoloau. They brought back a Jack Sawyer. They brought back those players. Now, they also sprinkled in with Quinshon Judkins, Seth McLaughlin, Caleb Downs. But the majority of those funds, what was it?
Will Howard,
yeah, him. Will Howard, absolutely. Absolutely.
Just a QB.
Yeah. But they brought those players in, but the majority of those funds were spent to retain current players on the team already. But again, they bring up the $20 million, but Oregon spent more, Texas spent more, Notre Dame spent just under the $20 million that Ohio State did. So $20 million is not the scary number that some have made it out to be. It's pretty much the going rate for a competitive national championship football team.
Money well spent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, money well spent is different than just spending money. Okay. Willie,
absolutely.
Do the Buckeyes have a general manager for athletics, for football, whatever, either one?
No. They have we have the two collectives, the foundation, the 1870 Society. If there was one, he's the director of recruiting, if you will. If there is a general manager, it will be Mark Pantoni. His assistant, Nick Murphy, So for all intent and purposes, those are the GMs for Ohio State football. But as one title, no.
All right, fair enough.
Willie, I have a question. We've talked
Yes.
in previous weeks about how different programs are approaching this house settlement that's coming up this summer. Some schools are doing away or eliminating their collectives. Has Ohio State decided how they're going to best navigate this changing financial landscape?
They have Ross Bjork, the new athletic director here at Ohio
From
State.
A&M?
He is
Mhm.
yes from A&M. He is all hands on deck. He's been aware to anyone who will listen and some of those who will not as well, that everything's on the table. Naming rights, jersey patch sponsorships, whatever it takes. He's already again established. There's a club beginning in the 2025 season inside Ohio Stadium that I believe, as I said, $7,000 per person yearly membership dues to have access to this exclusive club at Ohio Stadium. I say Ohio Stadium now, it could very well be Cardinal Health Stadium at some point, because he's made it abundantly clear that naming rights for that stadium are on the table, and the traditionalists here aren't too fond of that. But I say,
so will the collective stay in place as they are now?
Yes,
okay.
They will. Yes, they will. He has a plan. Year one, as part of the house settlement, the payment for Ohio State is $20.5 million. He has plans to generate those resources, along with allowing the collectives to do what they're currently doing. So,
okay, I'm glad KP brought that up and really expounded on it, because we're going to go from the OSU to another OSU, Oklahoma State. Their AD Chad Weiberg made the news. He sent an email out to their supporters last week. KP's laughing because some of this stuff it's just Ohio State is the ivory tower of athletics, and Oklahoma State isn't. But in terms of the Big 12, well, I mean, clearly, when T. Boone Pickens was alive and had money to burn, it was a whole lot different. But anyway, Oklahoma State AD Chad Weiberg sent an email to fans last Friday laying out the status of what is at hand for OSU, primarily from a financial standpoint. Quote, I'm not going to be a lot of quotes from him, but some details in the article in the Oklahoman from Scott Wright. Oklahoma State remains determined to compete for championships in the Big 12 Conference and at the highest levels of college athletics, Weiberg wrote. To do so, we will need to have access to an additional $20.5 million annually. And that's a specific number. For a specific reason, yes. The pending NCAA antitrust lawsuit settlement, which is expected to be finalized in early April, I'm still curious about that. But anyway, will open the door for athletic departments to share revenue directly with athletes up to the anticipated limit of $20.5 million annually. In simple terms, this will allow colleges to directly pay players, getting away from the current method of using collectives that operate outside the university's reach of control to compensate athletes for their name, image, and likeness. Universities in the state of Oklahoma have already been given the power to pay athletes directly through the recently signed executive order by Governor Kevin Stitt. Executive orders. Heard that a lot last few days. Anyway, in addition to the $1.2 million in excess revenue, the athletic department now can access the money that has been going through the collective, Pokes with a Purpose. But even, don't love that name. But even with that, the department will still be less than halfway to the $20.5 million figure. Where will the rest of the money come from? That's why OSU fans got an email from Weiberg. It's just so lovely how they're doing things now. The $20.5 million for revenue sharing is not a requirement. but will essentially be necessary to keep pace with the other programs who are taking full advantage of the allowed number. Willie Gibson, Ohio State, already said the Buckeyes are doing that. We'll continue to do that. Quote from Mr. Weiberg: "We believe that's what it's going to take to remain competitive. We believe that if we're not maxing it, then we're probably falling behind competitively because we know there are other schools that are planning to max it. Mm-hmm. We have started and will continue the process of what is it that we should be allocating differently. We clearly have to generate more revenue, KP. Everything is on the table, Willie Gibson, or needs to be on the table. We need to be thinking about that in ways differently than we have previously," end quote. But as Weiberg's email laid out, the need for additional revenue, primarily through donations and ticket purchases, is at a premium for, well, OSU. Not only does the university need to add $20.5 million to its annual budget for revenue sharing, but also for the typical increases in department costs, from the hiring of additional coaches to health and facilities insurance policies. Dating back to 2022, OSU's annual athletic expenses have increased at least $12 million per year. So a similar increase should be expected in addition to what is needed for revenue sharing. There you go. Thoughts on that? KP, you first. You know the Big 12.
OSU, I mean, now that, maybe you reach out to the T. Boone Pickens Foundation, hit them up for some more money, see what they can do. But it's just like, it's hard because you're essentially the little brother to the main state institution.
Mm-hmm.
Big 12 revenue is not that of the SEC
or the Big 10.
Yeah. So you're trying to bleed a turnip and find some more money, but good luck. And it's not a requirement, but it's necessary. Like, aren't those synonyms? But,
Willie, what are your thoughts?
Expected. Not to that point, I also received an email this morning from Ross B. York asking for donations to the Champions Club. I mean, you got to strike while the iron's hot. We just want to chip. So it's like, hey, right, while the emotions are high, let's get them. No, I mean, it's standard. It's expected. They have to generate $20.5 million, which you think in the world of college athletics, you think that untrained eye, I'll say, would think it's not difficult to do, but in all aspects, it really is. Most athletic programs operate in the deficit.
Right.
Athletic programs are not money makers; they spend it as they get it. But I mean, and now you're asking for an additional amount of resources to be allocated. So it has to come from somewhere, and he's asking his constituents, his base, hopes with a purpose, to generate the income.
But I'm sure it's a lot easier to ask for more when there are results to substantiate the request, and everybody has the warm fuzzy feelings like, oh, yeah, we could, this is what we did with this amount. So if we maintain, why can't we do it again? Whereas one of the favorites to win the Big 12 in football this year didn't show improve. So trying to ask for money now, like, I think people would be salty. Like, you squandered away whatever I gave previously. Why should I give you more?
Right.
And more, well, I wonder if more and more friends of the program, as Brother Gibson so eloquently states on numerous shows, will start demanding is wrong, but paying more attention to their return on investment. Hey, me and my family, our state, whatever, we've already contributed $1 million this year for a 8th place finish in, whatever conference, 5th, 6th, 4th, not first. And now you want me to invest another $1 million in the program? What's in it for me? What's in it for our state? So I'm curious how that's going to work. And I'm curious, this, ironically, I hope it happens. I doubt it will happen. But for programs like Oklahoma State, programs that are already selling out their football games, where else? They're not going to expand the stadium to sell more tickets. However, my wonderful alma mater, which has not sold out TD ECU Stadium and has low season ticket sales numbers, if they ever got awakened from their collective slumber and alums started spending money for, as Will rolls his eyes when he mentioned the average ticket price, season ticket sales for E-rates is like $100. Generally mentioned like $100 for the season tickets.
Can I get some perspective to that?
Sure.
I saw some, I believe these are preliminary numbers. Ohio State opens the football season August 30th with the home game versus Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Face value, highest ticket I saw was $408.
Sure.
For the Texas game.
For one game.
For the Texas game.
Right.
And that's the preferred pricing for season ticket holders. That's not general. That's not public.
So, Ohio State football, it's part of the fabric of that university. Houston Cougar football.
And to that point,
go ahead. No, go ahead, Will.
To that point, checkbooks get tired up here too.
Sure.
There's many times you've heard a FOP, a friend of the program, say, what am I getting for my $300,000? Right. What is this? What is doing? I know we mentioned in previous shows as well. Tillman gets tired at UH, and who else can you go turn to? It happens here too. I mean, it's not. It's just everybody's just now. Things like Monday Night help. Don't get me wrong, but there's times where friends of the program kind of look side eye at Ross Bjork and Ryan Day, and can somebody else write this check? What am I? What is this?
Donor fatigue is real.
Yes, absolutely.
Donor fatigue, FOP fatigue, whatever you want to call it, that fatigue is real. So I'm curious because the $20.5 million number is just for year one of this 10-year revenue sharing plan that's projected to increase, 3% annually, something like that? I think 3%?
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, but you look at kind of what Mike Gundy has agreed to kind of soften the sting, by restructuring his contract. And will that become the norm? Will more coaches redo their deals just to kind of help not only their program, but the entire athletic department? You look at what Indiana has announced. They're doing
layoffs,
departmental layoffs, not necessarily with the teams or reducing scholarships, but just kind of trimming the fat, within the athletic department. Is that going to be what it takes to maintain?
And Houston AD Eddie Nunez, everything is on the table for revenue generation. Every AD has probably said something similar to that phrase. Everything is on the table. I wonder if that, I think it depends on the conference, depends on the schools within said conference. Does that improve private equity, private capital? We haven't heard any more. Kenitra, you have anything to share about the Big 12 and the commissioner? Months ago was like, even the All-State 12 for the conference name. That's the initial report was it seemed to be closer to happening than not. the renaming of the conference, because there was, I think, joking at the football media day in Vegas in July last year. Will the announcement be? Will they make the announcement here in Vegas? Didn't happen. Hasn't happened yet. Big 12 Media Day football will return to Frisco, Texas. It was announced Wednesday. Will be in July in Frisco at the Star rather than Vegas. So will it be announced then? Where's the revenue going to come from? You know, KP mentioned about bleeding the turnip. That turnip is going to run out. You know, you're going to run out of turnips. You only have so many turnips, so many chances for revenue before you have to go somewhere else for the revenue. So I'm curious where that's all going to take place, what's going to happen. I'm shifting gears, going basketball, women's style. Dawn Staley is once again the highest paid coach in women's college basketball. Well, women's basketball, because I think she makes more money than WNBA coaches, right? I think that's pretty sure. So. For now, so. That may change a couple of years down the line. But thoughts on Coach Staley getting what, $25 million over what, 4 or 5 years now? Is that right? Something like that?
It was like 4. I think it's 4 a year. I think.
She's getting a raise, an immediate raise. She got a good agent. But Kenitra, what do you think about Dawn Staley getting a raise?
You know, Louis Vuitton Dawn. I mean, you gotta keep her fits together, and you know, as long as South Carolina is winning championships, conference and national, then you know she's compensated accordingly, because she's recognized for her talent and what she's been able to do. Because it's one thing to win, it's another thing to have sustained success.
Yes. And I would just like for Houston to win. just one time, Will. Just one time. Have either of y'all watched Unrivaled yet? The games?
I saw clips. I saw highlights, but I didn't see it. No.
I haven't watched probably more than one quarter, but I want to go over the rules of Unrivaled, some info about it, because part of that I didn't know. But Unrivaled, this is from and let me get off this slide for a moment. I'm on the mailing list for Unrivaled. Their game notes production, their email content they provide is on point. Man, it is impressive. The two women, well, I know one of them, I think she's the director of media communications for Unrivaled, came from the WNBA, so she has previous experience in communications. But the game notes for Friday, Saturday, Monday, PDF, colors, everything's in color, pictures, have a Google Drive shared for pictures from the arena, video, Zoom call links, everything there. And I'm like, this is nice. This is what I would like to see for other schools and other leagues that I'm privileged enough to be credentialed. This is impressive. Just a side note there, because there's no Houston team. All the games for the Unrivaled this first season are taking place in Miami. But an innovative 3-on-3 pro women's basketball league founded by two current U.S. Olympians, Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart. The league features 6 teams with 6 players on each team participating in games from January through March. Unrivaled features a brand new 3-on-3 basketball. The games will be played on a compressed court, 72 by 49.2 feet. The league is also setting a record with the highest average salaries in women's sports history. Kenitra, all 36 initial players will receive equity ownership. Willie Gibson. The season will include 9 weeks of total play, including playoffs. The 6 teams will play in a round-robin schedule. The top 4 teams in the standings at the conclusion of the regular season will make the playoffs. Games will be played in a 1-hour broadcast window. There will be 3 7-minute quarters, with the final quarter utilizing a winning score to end the game. It's plus 11 to the higher score between clubs at the end of the third quarter. So it's like a modified Elam ending thing. So it's interesting to watch. It's cool to watch. But what I wanted to touch on, Front Office Sports reported that a lot of the amenities that is provided by the league they have a lot of sponsors. One of them is, I'm not going to name the sponsor because they don't sponsor our show, so I give them any more love. But it's for women's products, hair, makeup, etc. Willie, KP, it's like a room, a makeup room, hairstyle room, just a room for the athletes to take care of themselves, put themselves up. They have another room for massages, another room for, all of these things. So the players, they love it. They love being treated like professional athletes.
Right.
They've compared it to some of the players, what they have received with their current WNBA franchise. And if you're not the Las Vegas Aces, if you're not the New York Liberty players, so someone like Miss Angel Reese, Bayou Barbie, has contacted her people over with the Chicago Sky. Hey, we need this. We need this. I'm using this here in Miami. We need to get this. We need to get this. She's making a list. So, Kenitra, what do you think? How beneficial is this, or could this be for the WNBA going forward to to catch up to the inaugural Unrivaled in amenities?
Well, I mean, first things first, like, this is very necessary, and it also helps prevent the need of these players having to go overseas, especially, this geopolitical climate that we're in. It's not very stable. Mm-hmm. So being able to play the game you love at home, make money, and be taken care of and nurtured. Not to mention the fact that Unrivaled also has an exemplary care system for mothers.
That too. Mm-hmm.
So like nurseries, being able to nurse your child, caregivers, so there's one less thing to have to worry about. Not only do you not have to take your child overseas or, leave them at home, while you travel, you can have them with you for the duration of the season, mm-hmm. And then while you're playing, for those, couple of hours, some qualified healthcare providers are there on site, so that's, a peace of mind that's afforded to these players so that they can perform, like pro athletes. But yeah, it's smart on Angel Reese and other players who basically are observant of what amenities are provided and how it could be beneficial to their WNBA teams.
And Will, I want you and KP to comment on this. Negotiations for the next collective bargaining agreement have begun, but they haven't gotten serious and won't until the end of this 2025 season. So the perfect timing with the ratings boom for the league. Unrivaled is showing players who don't get this from their current team what it looks like to be nurtured as a professional. Is raising the bar for those other owners in the league. So your thoughts on where this could go? Could it be a change in ownership? Could it be because the players, it's easy to say right now, some players are saying, hey, if we don't get A, B, C, D, then we don't have a problem having a lockout, after the end of this season until we get what we want, because the ratings dictate it. Ownership is dictating it. So some of y'all not want to spend the money and invest in us, invest in the league. You need to step your game up. What say you?
It's interesting to me, first, that these are current players, Fisa Collier and Brianna Stewart. And I don't know where they are involved at all as far as the WNBA Players Association, if they're union reps for
They are.
New York.
I think both of them. I think Stewie and Fee are like the VPs for the players union. So yeah, they're high up.
Okay, so it's basically they're giving ownership a template. Like, this is what we require.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know if these conversations have occurred prior to now, but it's almost like, okay, you know, it reminds me of my youth when my mother would get tired of talking. I can show you better than I can tell you. So maybe this is their opportunity of showing them, look, these are the things we require as professional athletes. These are things that we are looking to have in the next CBA. These are the type of things that if we don't have them, there could be a situation of a lockout at the end of the 25 season.
KP, what say you on that? From and both of y'all, I think, will like this. Being in Miami together for this time through March, it's open season for any signed player to talk to a free agent and say, hey, my team has all this stuff already. You know, you ought to sign with us because we already got these things. Why stay with your current team? Because they don't respect y'all as players, as women. Come on over here. KP, recruiting. It's friendly recruiting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, it didn't just start happening. I mean, you know, so like, but yeah, you know, you leverage, you know, here's what we have. Here's the infrastructure in place of our organization. And, you know, we think you're the missing piece that could, you know, put us over the top or you know, who could help us repeat as champions, you know, if you're the Liberty, you know. So yeah, you kind of evaluate, because, you know, there are fewer teams in the W than there are, you know, in the NBA, and it's still a growing league, you know, so there's still a lot of things to work out. I mean, namely travel, charter situation, you know, so yeah, you kind of persuade because you want to play with people you like as well as respect. So,
well, what say you on that, on the friendly recruiting?
It's a continuation, as KP said. It's always happened, and now, you know, everyone's just for a protracted period of time in the same place, so it's almost inevitable.
Yeah,
you know, I would be surprised if it didn't happen.
I'd be disappointed if it didn't happen, and that's, you know, I had to shake my head. Boy, if Houston had a franchise. But anyway, bottom of the hour here on this edition of the Houston Roundball Review Takeover, sponsored by Bayou Beat, BayouBeatNews.com, powered by JMNE, Bayou Beat, BayouBeatNews.com, bringing that Southern love to your daily news coverage. You're watching this show on YouTube via the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel, as well as on Roku via the BS3 Network. Download Roku. Download BS3 on Roku streaming device. Just download it. Download BS3 TV. If not, you can go to bs3network.com or bs3tvlive.com. And if you are new to this show, welcome. Come again. Don't be a stranger. If you are wondering what is BS3, what is it all about? I'm glad you asked, because here I'm going to show you a little promo, and we'll be back in about 35 seconds. But you are watching the Houston Roundball Review Takeover, sponsored by Bayou Beat via the BS3 Network.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.
Welcome back to the Houston Roundball Review Takeover of Lunch Break, sponsored by Bayou Beat and powered by JM&E. Joining me is colleagues Willie Gibson. How are you, sir?
Fantastic, sir. How about you?
From Ohio, the Ohio State University. Miss KP, Kenitra Williams, how are you?
I'm doing well. I mean, like Willie is like, really, really good times up in Columbus. I mean, so not only football team, then you have the men's basketball team go in and knock off Purdue.
That was big time. That was big time on Tuesday night. Absolutely. They got a little slow start, for whatever reason, but they went on a nice little run in the second half, and they got out of there with a 3-point win. So big time win for the basketball Buckeyes.
Cavaliers playing the Rockets twice this week. Will the Cavs sweep, split, or get swept?
They won't get swept. I'll say that. Evan Mobley's dealing with a calf injury. Isaac Okoro's out as well. So I'll say they split.
Fair enough. KP, what do you say?
Cavs will sweep.
Hey. Okay. Rocket fans. Kenitra Williams said that. KENNETRAPULLIAMS. I think it'll be a split. But I want to say this. Monday, MLK Day, the Pistons came to H-Town, played the Rockets. That was my first game at Rocket game in person since November because I've been in Coug mode. And even the reason I was at the game was, one, obviously because Detroit was in town, my favorite team. Two, Marcus Sasser plays for Detroit. Marcus Sasser is a UH alum, so I hadn't seen Marcus in a few months. Touch base with him. And the beat writer for the Detroit News is one Cody Davis. Cody Davis is from here, is one of my young men that I mentored before he headed up to Detroit. So all that factored in for being at the game on Monday. And I got a chance to see Cade Cunningham put on a show, leading Detroit to a win over the Rockets. So that post-game show of Let's Talk Houston Rockets, a few of my Rocket viewers said, Chris, go ahead and talk your ish, man. Talk it. You know you want to. I didn't. I refrained until the first person who chimed in was a Detroit Pistons fan. He's been, he was around last season and then lost his mind up. He went away, but Detroit's winning now. So he's first person, type in first. So later on in the show, Rocket fans, Chris, go ahead, man. You know you want to. Detroit basketball. So that's it. Okay, get that out the way. Anyway, but over the weekend, we touched on it last week with our predictions for the NFL playoffs. Mm-hmm. One shocking result made me smile. I'm still smiling. I'm still stunned about it. The Washington Commanders put it on the Detroit Lions, 45-31. What were y'all's thoughts on that result?
No, a surprise, definitely.
5 turnovers. That'll do it.
I was surprised, but it was interesting that on Monday, the offensive coordinator got the Bears job, and on Wednesday, the defensive coordinator got the Jets job. So then you wonder, how locked in were they in preparation for that game when so quickly thereafter they received head coaching jobs of their own? Great point. Kudos to Aaron Glenn for the Lions. He's an Aggie. He's from H-Town. I don't know about taking the Jets job, but it's a head coaching job. But salute to him for that. But
that's the thing. Any NFL head coaching job that's open, are any of them good jobs?
Right.
There's a reason they're open.
Right.
Yeah.
Facts. But in terms of ownership of the Jets, it's not high on the list of really good ownership.
Well, that could be said by a lot of teams in the
NFL. Right.
That's true too. And prior to ownership in DC changing hands, because they had a lot too. But All right, these final moments of the show. 2 clips from head coach Coach Hughey. First is somber because of the news he shared, but the timing of it was appreciated because one of my closest friends, colleagues, mentors, and Willie, you know Jerry Woodley. You've seen him a few shows with AD Moore, the Fifth Ward Wildcat.
Okay.
He passed away.
Oh, wow.
He passed away last Wednesday.
Wow. Sorry.
Didn't know about it until Tuesday. So spoke with his sister, got more details, everything about that. But I notified our colleagues, Houston Athletics. I mean, he covered every team in town. He worked for the Houston Post years ago. He was a grassroots coach. He knew Coach Sampson when Coach Sampson was, hell, might have even been in Washington State, going back that far. But he's coached a lot of pros. He worked with John Lucas and Luke, go back way back when they had their AU programs. And a quick story about Jerry Woodley. 2002, Van Chancellor was coaching the Olympic team. Comets were in town. The Olympic Team USA was in town training. The WNBA was in town. And WNBA, San Antonio had the Final Four, women's Final Four. Jerry's like, have you ever been in the Final Four? I said, no, I'm not. No. Well, we're going. Jerry, I'm not driving. I'll drive. Pick me up. Drove San Antonio. No credentials, Will. We're just going as people, fans.
Mm-hmm.
To see the KP know about this. We know about this. The Fan Fest. Mm-hmm. So hour and a half away, easy drive. No muss, no fuss. So while we're there, I bump into some of the WNBA president high ups, and like I said in previous shows, I cover the comments. Way back then, I was known by the league office. President Donna Orender, Renee Brown, VP, all that, because of my coverage of the comments. So I was respected. Little old me, little old Houston Roundball people had earned that respect of the league. So I was asked, Chris, are you going to go to the Final Four games? No, I hadn't planned on it. No. So Jerry's standing behind me while I'm being asked this question by somebody from the league office. Yeah, he's going. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess I'm going. Okay. So they walk away. I'm like, Jerry, I don't have a ticket. What are we going on? And he's like, just ask the comments. Ask Coach Chancellor. Ask Coach Cook. 5 minutes later, Coach, can you give me a ticket? I got you. So that's how I ended up going to my first Final Four, which was because of one Jerry Lee Woodley Jr. So this clip, as I said, I told some of the Houston Cougars athletic department, mutual friend, everything. Coach Hughey opened up his post game after the Cougs lost to Texas Tech, but this is how he opened up his post game comments.
I want to open up with send my condolences to Jerry and his family. Ty made me aware of your post, and I know how critical he was, and a great friend, and almost family to you and to the Houston program. Somebody that was always willing to be here when other people wasn't here, and always around and trying to promote us as much as he possibly could. Great guy. I'm sorry to hear about his passing.
Thank you, Coach. So I was surprised he did that. It was appreciated, very much so. And when it comes to women's sports or smaller school sports in H-Town, if I wasn't at a game, Jerry's at the game, and vice versa. If he wasn't, I was. So we were like peas in a pod. So we made road trips. Will, KP, I drove from Houston to Oklahoma City for Big 12 Media Day and back in the same day. Back when Kim Mulkey was there, Coach Conrad was at Texas. So that's trying to get my foot in the door. Drove up and back.
What's the time? I'm just curious.
7 hours each way.
Oh,
in the same day, 24 hours, drove up there and back. So that's why when I see youngsters nowadays who don't want to put in the time, y'all ain't serious about this. I'm serious about this. Okay. So did all that. So rest in peace to Jerry, and thank you. And still pressing forward. And he and I still have. I guess it's up to me now to keep the hope alive of trying to get a women's Final Four to H-Town, because both he and I always joked about it. Before we die, we'd like to see it happen one day. Well, the Lord called Jerry home, so it's now on me to see if I can happen before I die to get the women's Final Four to H-Town. But to the game, Cougars, Texas Tech. Final score, 62-44. Tech shot 46% in the game. KP and Will. Texas Tech has played 8 Big 12 games so far this season. They shot above 40%. Okay, not 45. 40% just twice in those 8 games. Those 2 times were against Houston. Everything else, 38, 35, 33, 32, but 50% in Lubbock and 46% in H-Town. Listen to Coach Hughey's comments about the game.
Texas Tech came out and executed their game plan. Same thing they did down there, ball screens, and impressed us a little bit. And I didn't think we came out with enough energy ready to play today. And that's on me. Overall, I just think we have to come out with a better focus and ready to play. I think from the moment we stepped on the floor, the energy was down. We wasn't locked in on the game plan, was doing what we need to do to be successful throughout the game. And it showed. And we'll get that rectified.
Do you think the change in start time mess up the routine or anything like that at all?
I have no idea at this point. No idea. I don't even know if it was the snow. I know we're going to meet and talk about it and be able to figure it out, because we got a good Kansas team coming in here on Saturday.
Coach, you're able to hold Tech just to 10 points in that first quarter. What was the struggle defensively in the second and third period, giving up 18 and 23 consecutively?
Miscommunication, not being aware on switches, allowing second and third opportunities, and us not taking care of the basketball. I think all those things contributed to them having a scoring burst in the second and third quarter.
Coach, at this point, where's the level of frustration? Is it frustration, disappointment? Where are you right now?
It's all of it, with myself, with everybody, with our team. It's all of us. When you're at this point, it's not just one person or just the team or any of that stuff. We have to take a look at ourselves in the mirror on all of it and be able to and see exactly what it is. The one thing about it, we haven't had a performance like this before. So that's the thing. It's not something like we come out and don't play hard all the time or anything like that. That's why the disappointment and frustration is there, because we might have some lapses here in play, especially because we're down numbers. Like Layla had to play 40 minutes because Leilani is out with a broken nose. So again, playing with 7 again. So again, you have that issue, but again, you have to be able to push through and have some intensity to be able to figure it out from there.
Thoughts on what he said, what y'all heard?
What I heard was a man who realizes the end is near. It's getting late early, is what I heard. Honestly.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, this year's team isn't the first to play with reduced numbers, due to injuries. I mean, look at what TCU had to undergo last year, having to forfeit games and having to have an open recruiting for the campus, just to try and get enough players to practice. And then, it worked out well, because one of the players was rewarded with a scholarship, the underfrogs, as they call that group. So, you do what you have to in order to have a team, to have a program.
And that'll do it for this edition of the Houston Roundball Review Takeover, sponsored by Bayou Beat, BayouBeatNews.com, powered by JM&E. Brother Gibson.
Yes, sir.
The world is yours, sir.
Yes.
How can folks find you? Let me see if I can do this. There we go.
Yes, sir. Thank you again, as always, for the opportunity. As Carl states, on X, I am at Will Gibson 7, Facebook Will Knows, and IG and Threads Will Knows Sports.
You don't want to change it to the Will Knows Sports?
No.
You don't want to put a the in there?
That's copyrighted. I'm good.
Okay.
KP, Ms. Kenitra Williams, where are you on social media? Same.
No change.
All right, fair enough. But thank you again for your time. I am, of course, KG Chris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review. And y'all know me, K Gardner in Houston Roundball Review. On it's back now. I can keep it up there at TikTok for another 90 days. Well, 85 days now, whatever, on that platform, Houston Roundball Review. So thank you again to Willie Gibson, Kenitra Williams, everyone watching this edition of the Houston Roundball Review Takeover, sponsored by Bayou Beat, BayouBeatNews.com, bringing that Southern love to your daily news coverage. And salute and kudos always to Ben and the folks over at BS3 Network. And of course, our man, AJ Andre Jones, for giving us a platform to share our opinions and insight with you on this show. And we're going to do it again next week. So until then, y'all know it. Subscribe to the Houston Roundball Review on YouTube. And always keep this in mind. Since 1994, the Houston Roundball Review. Local name, global perspective. Everyone, take care. Peace.